This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Look at all of these texts pouring in. I mean, you just say the name Gleeman. If it's not the podcast, it's I got a chance to ask Gleeman a question. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is exploding right now. 64686.
They don't get this kind of access to Gleeman. He's usually behind the Patreon paywall.
Well, that's what happens. Right? The bigger that has gotten. So now somebody told me
my ivory tower that I like to.
It's not. I'm not going to necessarily say it was a reliable source, but a source told me that last year on the podcast you made $4.2 million. Is that true?
Yes. We're looking.
I'm just saying.
We're looking to take over the Twins' debt so that we can take over the team.
All right. That might be a bit exaggerated.
We have no debt on our books.
That's the good part.
So whatever we're making, it's clean.
All right. Fair enough. By the way, how can people get to the podcast?
Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/Gleeman. We just did one today about this
Sometimes you do freebies. Like, was the one today a freebie?
No, the one today was kind of a reaction to the article and then also the opening day roster got set, so we talked about that.
All right.
Actually, I will say, we have, for the season starting, we clicked in today a 7-day. The next 7 days, it is a freebie.
Oh, that's
so if you
nice.
want to sign up and listen to 50 episodes and then quit,
you get caught up.
That's fine too.
And what's the average length of your podcast? Do you have like rigid rules on that, or you guys sometimes you just go?
Depends on what country bonus is originated from, probably, right?
Yeah, he did the Correa middle of the night signing from Scotland, I think. I would say an hour to 2 hours are the average.
Okay,
and the pay ones are commercial free, so that's a true 2 hour.
Yeah, an hour or two. Wow. All right, this is from, I'm going to have to get my cheaters on here, it looks like. Jake from Minneapolis. Who is the biggest, this will be the most ball guy question, I think, of all of them. But it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Who is the biggest threat to the Twins in the American League Central? Or is there a threat to the Twins in the AL Central?
Well, I think you got to say Cleveland because they won it last year. And they've, over the last decade or so, they've probably been the best team consistently in the Central. I think it's very similar to last year where the 4 non-White Sox teams are all pretty good, but not exceptional. 80 to 88 win range, like, average or above average, but not exceptional. And I think Kansas City could certainly win the division. Detroit, I mean, they were all, even the Twins at 82 and 80 last year were within spitting distance at the end of the season if they hadn't completely collapsed down the stretch. So I would say, and most odds makers and projections and stuff have the Twins as basically co-favorites. But it's a very closely grouped.
With Cleveland?
Yeah, with Cleveland. But, I mean, Kansas City, I honestly think 85 to 87 wins might do it this year. It's not that the Central, it's no longer the laughingstock division. It's a much improved division other than the White Sox, obviously. But it's more competence across the board as opposed to like one or two standout, World Series favorite type of teams, which it kind of used to be like that a lot of the times in the early 2000s. But, yeah, I think the Twins, despite a very long, boring offseason, and despite all the off-field stuff that we've been talking about and the overall fan frustration, they could easily, with this division, with 87 and 75 or something like that.
Do the Twins have this is from looks like 507 guy. Do the Twins have a guy who, if given 35 tries, can actually get a pinch hit? Also, Randy Dobnak? Those are his two questions.
Well, Randy Dobnak made the last spot on the opening day roster because a couple of their relievers got hurt in camp. He's mentioning the pinch hitting because of Manuel Margot, who set the all-time Major League record by going 0 for 30 or 0 for 31 last year as a pinch hitter, and they kept trotting him out there.
Yes,
he was due.
Right.
Here's the funniest part. Manny Margot signed a minor league deal with the Brewers after getting cut by the Twins, didn't make the Brewers out of spring training, was released by the Brewers maybe 3-4 days ago, and signed a major league contract and will be on the opening day roster of the Detroit Tigers. And I've never been as confident in my life of predicting something as I'm about to now. He will come off the bench for the Tigers against the Minnesota Twins and deliver a hit as a pinch hitter.
Yeah,
I'm certain of it.
It's inevitable, you're saying. Probably right. A lot of TV ones coming in. I should have saved. Boy, they're coming in sedan. Oh, here we go. Well, he says it's not a question for Gleeman, but I think it's worthy of discussion. It's East St. Cloud guy. I'm chiming in to voice frustration with Twins TV. I'm a DirecTV customer and was under the impression that I wouldn't be able to watch the Twins, so I bought the streaming service. Now I'm told that DirecTV will have a standalone channel. I feel like I wasted $100. This is part of the issue right now, right? The not knowing.
Yeah, I'm also a DirecTV user. I don't think this was the reason that they've delayed the announcement for the cable and satellite, but it could be a benefit to them as you're trying to sell a new standalone streaming product to wait as long as possible and get as many people to sign up for that as possible. But yeah, it's going to be, I'll be shocked if it's not on DirecTV. I would say they're very close probably to announcing that it's going to be, something in the 700s or something like that channel-wise, and then it'll be dark until the game like we talked about a little bit earlier.
Will Twins TV have a channel on services like Fubo? Can't find any information on it. That's Andy from New Hope.
That's the thing. You start answering these questions, and there's just an endless pit. And I sympathize with fans who just want information. They want to know what can I sign up for to watch this. It's Fubo, YouTube TV, Hulu, all that stuff. I believe they will have a channel on that, but I'm not in a position to say with any certainty. And again, this is the danger from a team standpoint and a business standpoint of waiting until the last minute. You just get fans who basically throw their hands up and go, how do I get this stuff? So I think it will be on that, but I can't say for certain.
Sean from Bovey, Minnesota. Having moved to northern Minnesota and as a Paul Bunyan communications subscriber, I am thrilled that we will be getting all the Twins games.
Him and his whole neighborhood will get that.
One happy customer, and maybe a few more in northern Minnesota. Doesn't do as good in the metro.
It was very funny to me that a couple days ago they really rolled out like 20 different satellite and cable, but they were all had 400 people on them, they're this small. But I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here.
Measure of desperation.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the ball club as well. The prevailing ball guy view writ large seems to be maybe the best bullpen in baseball. Good rotation, and then the lineup might be a little bit of a crapshoot. So, do you agree with none of those assertions going in?
I think the strength of this team will be the starting rotation, similar to 2 years ago when they made the playoffs and actually won a playoff series when they had Sonny Gray and Pablo. By the way, they're facing Sonny Gray. They have Pablo on the mound versus Sonny Gray on opening day.
In St. Louis.
So that would be interesting.
Yeah.
As a little side plot. But I think the starting rotation, both in terms of the front three of Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, I think is very strong. I think the 4-5 of Paddock, Simeon Woods Richardson is decent, but I think the real strength is
in the minors.
David Festa, right? Zebby Matthews, Andrew Morris. Their AAA is going to be has as much upside as some teams Major League. So I think they can withstand some injuries. If they have to, they can substitute for underperformers in the first half, something like that. I think the rotation will be the strength. I think there are a bunch of projections. Fangraphs, which is one of the leading sabermetric sites, has the Twins bullpen, as you said, the number one projected bullpen. I will, however, note that they were projected to be either the second or third best bullpen last year, and they were middle of the pack at best. Bullpens are just so tricky to project because the samples are very small, 50, 60 innings at a time. And you can pitch great for 3 weeks and then give up a 3-run homer in the 9th inning of a big game, and it wipes away all the good you've done. I think they will have a good bullpen, but I have some questions about Duran in terms of velocity dipping. Brock Stewart is beginning the season on the IL. I think Griffin Jacks is great. I think they have good depth. I think Louis Varland's going to have a good year in the bullpen, but I would view the bullpen as good rather than great. And I agree with what you said, which is the lineup to me is the biggest question. And I've been covering the Twins for 20-something years. It's usually the opposite.
Yes.
You know, even going back to the Mauer-Morneau days, they got some hitters, and they don't really have much pitching. I think the pitching will be the strength, and especially with Royce Lewis out to begin the season, Brooks Lee out to begin the season. They lost Carlos Santana and replaced him with Ty France at first base. They've really, they have okay depth, but the star power other than Buxton, Correa, Lewis, but it's the same story with all three of them. First of all, Lewis is already hurt, and Buxton and Correa, you don't know what you're going to get in terms of season-long production. So they have the upside, and there's some young talent that'll be at AAA, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Luke Keeschel, and some other guys who could come up midseason and provide a boost to the lineup. But the other thing is they didn't do anything all offseason. And so the same 25 to 30-year-old core of guys that have been around, came up through the system, that underperformed, including Royce Lewis, but like Edward Julian, Jose Miranda, those type of guys, down the stretch last year or were hurt last year, they're just running it back with the same group. And that can work, but it's hard to get a firm grasp of what this team is capable of offensively, because when last we saw them, not a guy in the whole lineup could hit, and it's the same core group that's back.
I want to talk more about some of the injuries that have already emerged and the larger issues related to that. We got one more segment with our guy Aaron Gleeman in studio. Louie at the bottom of the.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Leesa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Leesa. Go to Leesa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night, and building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica, empathy is our best policy.
One more segment in studio with Aaron Gleeman, kind enough to join us for the first time. We hope many visits over the course of the baseball season. This text came in earlier, and I mentioned some of the background on it from to you during the break, Mr. Gleeman. As you heard from Wobble last week, the ball guys are already on the defensive for the team around injuries. Since we didn't make it to opening day without a significant player out, what should fans expect this year? Do we have any depth, or are we just hoping for no more injuries all season long to have a chance this year to be relevant?
Well, they had depth in the infield, but the problem is you lose your starting third baseman, Royce Lewis, for what I would expect to be most of April at the very least. And then the guy that might have slid over and played third base, Brooks Lee, is also now on the IL to begin the season, although he could be back probably sooner with a back problem. So when you lose half of your starting infield, it eats into your depth pretty quickly. And so guys like Willie Castro, who's a super utility player, Eddie Julian, who kind of fell out of favor last year, is now going to get an opportunity to hit his way back into their plans a little bit. Jose Miranda, who they would prefer to play at DH or maybe first base, might end up subbing for Lewis temporarily at third, which he did quite a bit last year, but he's not a great defender. He's more of a hitter. And so they have the depth in that they can still trot out on opening day a pretty good all-around infield, but they don't have any more depth. Like, they've exhausted. These guys, a couple of bench guys like Julian, Miranda, Castro are now in the lineup, and so they can't really withstand any more injuries. I think come midseason, they'll get more depth because some of the high-end prospects will be pretty much knocking on the door to the majors, so that should help compared to last year where they didn't really have the ability to call up, big talent late in the season. But the depth isn't the real issue for me. It's more, especially on the hitting side, you basically have 3 very good hitters, all of whom have been injured a ton, one of whom, Lewis, is injured now and finished last year in a horrible slump. So there were questions about him anyway. This lineup is going to go as far as Correa and Buxton take it, and that's been the case for the last 2 or 3 years, obviously. They're both healthy. Correa seems to be over the plantar fasciitis that bothered him the last 2 years, although that can recur.
Yeah, right.
And this is as healthy and kind of optimistic about injuries as Buxton has seemed, because not only did he end last year healthy, which is a rarity, but he began spring healthy and made it through camp. They played their last game a few hours ago, so I don't need to knock on wood with that. Healthy. So I think he's capable of having a huge season. Correa is still an all-star level talent. It's just a matter of, are you going to get 100 games from each of them, 120 games? I think at the point they would probably take, 250 combined games from both of them at this point.
Do you know what the Buxton plan is?
I think he's basically as free and clear as someone with his injury history can be. I mean, if you go back 2 years ago, it was all DH and that didn't work. Then he had the second knee surgery, which really appeared to fix the problem. Like they removed a flap from his knee, and that had been bothering him for years. And we saw last year he needed, rest days. He needed some DH time, but for the most part, he played center field. And I thought for a 30-year-old, which is an age at which speed-based guys sometimes decline anyway. I mean, we saw that with Puckett and Torrey Hunter and guys like that. He was pretty damn good in center field, and he played 102 games. I realize that's not a lot for the average person, but that was just the second time he's played 100 games in his entire career. 2017 was the other one. And like I said, he finished the season healthy. He had a great year offensively. He's one of the best hitting center fielders in baseball. I think second best OPS to Aaron Judge, who was the MVP of the whole league. So there's a lot of optimism about him and about Correa, but it's all relative because of their injury histories.
Did we ever come close this offseason to trading Correa? Was there anything to that story? Was that just one of those cool stories to float without there being much substance to?
I think it was mostly that. I think anytime there's payroll issues, ownership issues, it's super easy to look at the payroll and go, who's the guy making the most money? Well, it's Carlos Correa. And because he was hurt for most of the second half last year, he's making 30-something million on a payroll that's 130 million and is down compared to a couple years ago. But he has a no-trade clause and at no point gave any hints that he wanted out. And then, once that story kind of started making the rounds, or that speculation, I really think it stemmed from Joel Sherman, who's a longtime New York Yankees.
I remember that.
I think he's at the Post now, but he's a veteran ball guy in New York. And if you go back and read the initial thing,
this is who they should go get.
Right. It wasn't based in any reporting. It was like, well, the Twins are cutting payroll. They got a good guy making $35 million a year. Maybe this works. And then it just off to the races from there.
That's all it takes this day and age. So, you mentioned Lewis. I mean, I don't know what to say about the injuries, but he slumped. So that leads to a larger question about, did we all get too excited about what he represented? Because for a while it was like, well, this is the new face of the franchise. This is the guy. And now I think there maybe is a little bit of, though there's always concern about injury, but is there also some concern about, okay, we got to maybe readjust our expectations of who this guy really is? What was at the height of his slump? What was going wrong? And do we need to look at him a little differently than necessarily being a superstar?
It was a weird thing with him the first 2.5 years, which is he was constantly injured, coming back from torn ACLs or 3-month injuries, oblique strains and hamstrings, and now he's out with a hamstring. But every time he would come back, he would crush the ball.
Yes.
And so it got to be like Roy Hobbesian, where it's like, well, if we can keep this guy in the lineup, this is the best hitter we've ever seen. And then he was I think, banged up but largely healthy down the stretch last year. He missed like a month in the middle of the season, came back, hit 190 with one homer, I think, in his last 40 games. And that was the first time that he had been in the lineup and not great, let alone bad. And I think it struck fans with what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're like, ooh, did we view this guy differently? And I honestly think it got to him a little bit too, because he had been through so much adversity health-wise and come back from 2 torn ACLs and just endless injuries. And he's always got a smile and he's always got a good outlook, and he can be a face of a franchise in terms of personality. Mm-hmm. But I really think it hit him. He wore down physically. He only played 82 games, but that's a career high for him. And it was the first time he had ever not performed well in the majors. And so I think he looked around and he was like, people are criticizing me? Like, what? It's not working. I feel worn down.
Yeah.
I think he was glad to get to the end of the season. And the sad part about him hurting his hamstring a week and a half ago and probably missing April is he was hitting like 340 in camp. He was healthy.
So he had looked pretty promising.
He looked pretty good. And the throwing issues that he had at third base, he hadn't had any of those in camp. And now it's like, well, now we're back to the injuries. And you hope that he can come back and crush again, which he's done other than the last 6 weeks last season. But, is he as good as the guy who, hit a grand slam every week? No. Can he be an all-star third baseman? Absolutely. I mean, he can be one of the better players on a championship caliber team, but the same is true of Buxton, and he's just so rarely been on the field for long stretches. And, you go back to Mauer and even before that, they've had such bad injury luck with top prospects and high-end young guys that you've just so rarely gotten like a clean career runway with these guys, and now Lewis is just the latest one.
What are we going to be defensively?
That's a good question. I mean, up the middle, they should be good. Buxton's good. Correa's good. I think if they end up playing Castro mostly at second base or Brooks Lee comes back and plays second, they're both very good. The catchers are decent, but the problem that they ran into last year, they're not going to be real strong in any of the 4 corners, corner outfield or corner infield. Santana was a Gold Glove winner. Ty France is not that. He's okay, but he's not that. Third base might end up being Miranda, who's a below-average third baseman. And then you have Larnach and Wallner, who are good left-handed sluggers, but they're 6'5", and they don't move all that well. And then the problem that they ran into last year is when you have Correa and Buxton, you're good up the middle. When they miss time and suddenly Willie Castro's playing shortstop, or they did sign Harrison Bader to be Buxton's backup. He's a former Gold Glove winner, so there shouldn't be a huge drop-off there. But I think they're going to strive to be average with strength up the middle, which is where you want to be strong in baseball. But I do have a lot of questions about the secondary guys and the corner spots.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming in on such a short notice. I much appreciate that. And we'll now that it's starting, we'll be in touch whether the Twins sell or not. Yeah. Our vow is to still try to get involved with you. Yeah, it's still a story.
We can rant about it either way. That's the beauty of it.
That is the beauty of it. Thanks. Good to see you, man.
Of course. Good to see you guys.
Aaron Gleeman, kind enough to join us in studio. After a short pause, we'll talk hockey, another one of Gleeman's favorite subjects. Lou Nanne is coming.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night. And building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica. Empathy is our best policy.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
Up next here.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is
Lou Nanne?
Well, we know he ain't here. That's for sure. Although we do know that Louie, brought to you by Kemp's, is headed for yet another Hall of Fame. Honestly, at some point, is there any sports-related Hall of Fame, broadcasting or otherwise, that Luigi's not going to be a part of? I don't know, but he joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Have you counted up? Are you in double digits on Halls of Fame yet?
Well, if I'd have picked up this sweater in Northern Ontario, yes, I would be 10 instead of 9.
Instead of 9.
But I had to drive 350 miles, and I didn't go.
So that's the goal. Now, the goal then is to hit double digits, right? I mean, is there one? There's got to be. I mean, it's unbelievable. But congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help and being associated with you guys.
Yeah. Well,
all these years
probably didn't hurt.
Was a big factor.
It didn't hurt, but it went. It was a fun letter to write. I don't know if anybody pays it to they have a board. I have no idea what they pay attention to there. I'll be honest. When Kessler and I talked about this the other day, we both thought, or before I was aware that they were, that you were a possibility. I just assumed you were already in, and Kessler assumed the same thing too. But nevertheless, it's a good honor, right? I mean, again, especially because of your association with the high school tournament, but not all. I mean, you were doing, you've done broadcasting stuff forever, both regionally, locally, and nationally.
Well, I'm very honored to be in it. I was extremely surprised, and yes, I have been, for 63 years. I've done things that go off the charts. Like I was a host for ESPN on the arm wrestling tournament, where people wouldn't believe. I was the first analyst that ESPN ever had in college hockey. I did Hockey Night in Canada. I worked with ABC and CBS and did the Stanley Cup Finals. I had a show for years on WLOL, a daily sports show,
sure,
because I didn't want to go home after practice, and I wanted to make sure I kept the work ethic so that I'd be gone till 5 o'clock, and so I did that. I mean, there's so many different things that I've had the good fortune of doing. I did the Olympics with ABC. There's a lot of things that when I stop to think about it, that I've done over 63 years, but I didn't even expect it. I mean, I never thought of it. In fact, when Kathy Wurzer
yep.
called me,
mm-hmm.
and I was walking into a stadium, I think it was into Boston Stadium, and he said, "Lou, it's Kathy Wurzer." I said, "Oh, what can I do for you?" And she said, "No." She said, "I'm calling about." I said, "About what?" And she explained it to me, and I had no idea. I don't know who nominated me, how I got in there.
That's excellent.
I just was very, very honored and very surprised.
Well, I'm glad it was a surprise, because I don't think it always is in that way. And the fact that's how you found out, and at that point you weren't thinking about it, you had no idea about it, that makes it even better, I think.
So that's not why you're building,
right.
Louis.
It was nice.
That's not why you're building the expansion in the cabin to house all these Hall of Fames. You finally ran out of room. That's not why.
Too much trophies.
Why? Too many trophies.
Yeah.
Too many plaques. I know the condo doesn't have room for all of them.
That's. I don't have any. I just have a small little condo.
A little, yeah. That's it. Yeah, this modest little,
cottage.
Lean. Well, they call it a lean-to, don't they? Pretty much. That's all it is, right?
That's perfect. I never thought of it in that light. Yes, I think you're right. That's what it should be.
Somebody's saying, are you going to say what Hall of Fame got into? I said it once. The Minnesota Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Maybe the texter didn't hear me, but that is the latest hall that you have been. You will be inducted into. The announcements are generally made this time of year, and then there's a big awards dinner sometime. I want to say usually it's in the fall, isn't it? In the late summer or fall.
In Stillwater.
In Stillwater this year, yeah.
Yeah.
I even figured this year they picked a place that you would go. Stillwater.
Yeah.
The very fashionable Stillwater location, which I think works well too. So that should be a good time. You just have to make sure they're very strident about strict on rules regarding the length of speech, right? It's like supposed to be, I think the guideline is like 2 to 3 minutes. And I think most people still get maybe to 4 or 5. But then there's the guy who used to run this whole place, Mick Anselmo. I think he spoke for 4 hours. I don't remember, but it was so long. And the great story is, basically, Mick got up there, as I recall it. I don't think I was there to listen to him, but as the story's been told, he basically said, "Don't bother telling me I'm done, because I'm going to be done when I'm going to be done." And he just kept going on and on and on. So keep that in mind. It's up to you if you want to break that record.
I got to tell you a funny story. When you say that, they years ago when the Lester Patrick, you used to get the Lester Patrick Award.
Yeah.
It was in Waldorf Astoria in New York, and at that time we might have had 1,000 people would go to it. Since then, we've had it all over across the country. But this night, I was sitting at the last table in the Waldorf, and I was sitting with Harry Sinden, Bill Torrey, Bob Fulford. I think Scotty Bowman was at our table, and Snooks Kelly got up there, and they introduced him. He was a Boston College coach, and he was getting the Lester Patrick Award, and he went on and on, and the room, was huge.
Yeah.
But they still had some lights on, just not really bright lights, but mood lights, let me say. And so I see this guy walking back towards our table, and he got right by our table, which, as I said, was the last table. And he turned around and yelled, he says, "Hey, Snooks, when you're done, turn out the lights." And he walked out.
That's brilliant.
I couldn't stop laughing.
That's too good.
How many times would you have been at things where you'd like to say that?
That's it.
But
what a great line.
Guy actually did.
That is an absolutely great line. Well, congrats again. I'm glad that worked out, and I'm sure you'll have fun when that big occasion is upon us. I want to start actually with a college. I've got a couple college hockey questions, and you don't know where you've been, so I don't know what you've been able to see. But as I understand it, there's still a lot of talk in the hockey community about the fact that in the women's hockey championship, NCAA championship game, Wisconsin gets the opportunity for I think within like the last minute and change, if I'm not mistaken.
18.9 seconds, I saw it.
Even better. Well, then you did see it. A penalty shot was awarded, and a lot of people are saying, "Come on, man, you can't do that. That's never happened. It won't ever happen again. It shouldn't have happened." What's your view on that call and that decision and so forth?
I didn't actually see the girl. I didn't see. It was called covering the puck with your hands in the crease.
Yep.
Okay. Now, from what I read, because I didn't see the actual part of that, she, like the Ohio State side was saying, she might have had her hand on the puck, but she pushed it out, and it's really unless it was completely covered and held onto, I'm surprised by the call. I'm surprised that you would give a penalty shot at that stage of the game, where it might have been taken, one way or the other. Somebody might have just been pushing it out, with emotion and not covering it. I don't know. I would have to say that call shocked me when I heard about it before I even saw the penalty shot taken.
Yeah. Because
then I saw it over and over a number of times. But to have that call at that time, that stage, and that motion was really a surprise to me.
And so, for you, are there two different questions? One is whether it's a legitimate call. The other is the sort of unofficial feeling that, well, in that situation with that there's so little time on the clock, there are some calls that there's some advantages you just can't grant the team.
Well, I'm not so certain. I didn't see the play. Now, if you completely cover it and just hold your hand on the puck in there, they can't push it in, and the whistle blows. You got your hand on the puck. That's covering the puck. It's cut and dry. But from the way I read it, it wasn't just putting your hand in the puck and holding it. It's covering your hand with a puck. Well, hey, let me tell you one thing. How many times in a game do you see the puck passed with the hand? In the NHL, you could pass the puck with your hand to your teammate in your own zone. So if somebody's just ahead of you and you're on the ground, say on the ice, and you push it ahead with that motion, they're not going to call you for covering the puck. You're just making a pass with the hand. So was it that motion? I don't know. And that's what I'm questioning. Not so much that you wouldn't call it if it was evident that the girl just covered her hand with the puck and did that in the crease, then you're going to get called for it.
Thursday, 7:32 p.m., Fargo Regional. The Gopher men face UMass. And that's, like I said, 2 versus 3. Gophers are seeded 2. UMass is 3. And then, of course, the other semifinal game, the top seed is Western Michigan against Minnesota State Mankato. How do you feel about, before we talk about the game, the matchup itself, how do you feel about the draw? How do you feel about where the Gophers ended up?
This time I'm very happy where they ended up. If Denver would have won the game, then the Gophers might have gone somewhere else, and it could have been a different draw. I personally like where they are and the bracket they're playing. I feel real good about it. I think even though they hadn't been sharp the last few games of the year here, and what I don't like about it is they weren't able to play for a couple of weeks.
18
you
days.
Look at one side of it, you say you might get healthy, but you like to stay sharp, and they did lose a real good player for the rest of the year, right near the end of that game. But I like where they're at, who they're going to be playing, and the whole bracket itself. I mean, you're going to get tough teams in every bracket.
Yeah, right. It's part of the deal.
Well, I think this bracket is one that they're very capable of coming out of.
And I think by Thursday it will have been an 18-day layoff, which is obviously considerable amount of time. Do we have established on this team at this late date a number one goaltender?
Well, you would have thought so until you went into the series against Notre Dame, and then when the guy that looked like he was going to be number one gave up a couple of soft goals, and they actually got shelled at one game by Notre Dame, and he got taken out, and it looked like the U was going to bounce back with the other one. They go to win the second game, and then go in the third game and lose that one too. And I'm going to be interested to see what Bob does. Which way is he gonna lean? I don't know. I don't want to make a prediction because it might not sound good to the other kid, but I think that he's got his mind made up already, and he knows where he's going. And now it's whoever's in the net's got to realize that you're playing for the whole ball of wax, and you got to be at your sharpest, and you got to be ready.
Questions or comments for Luigi, hit the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. He'll be with us until the top of the hour. The Wild's 3-game winning streak ended last night with a shutout loss to the Dallas Stars. So, we're all, I guess, still in this holding pattern, right? I mean, that's what it amounts to. They've had that nice little stretch, that 3-game winning streak, much needed to sort of maintain their position. I think it's, we're still in position where this team's going to make the playoffs. But what should be the goal until we get to that date where one hopes at least that we're going to get the reinforcements that this team so desperately needs?
Well, we're still in the mode that we have to have that team play .500 hockey. If you look at it, they won 3, but fortunately they won 3 because they were in a little slump before that. Now they're at 85 points, which they have 11 games to go. 500 hockey gives them 96 points, and we said that's the target, because even though we know that 96 is the target, you got to realize they've got 11 games left. Vancouver's got 11 games left, but Calgary's got 13 games left, and St. Louis got 10. Now, you got 4 teams in there, and the cushion is good for the Wild, except when you look at Calgary, they've got 2 extra games in hand, and they're going to play the Kraken tonight. I think they're going to beat the Kraken, so that'll give them 79, which would, all of a sudden, now they're getting in the situation where they're getting closer. They're going to be 6 back with a game in hand. And Vegas, I watched Vegas play. I was at the game in Vegas last week against Boston, and Vegas had been in a slump, and they came out of it, and they are playing real well since that time. And so if the Wild doesn't win this game tonight, all of a sudden it's going to look tighter than you think, because even though you got that cushion, you got to make sure you get to that area, because this team, has got a tough schedule going the rest of the way. And until you get those reinforcements, I don't know when they're coming back. And that's the worst part about it.
You're supposed to know. You're supposed to tell us. You got the inside.
They don't even know when they're coming back. The problem, I saw Brodin come back that last game, and then he's out again tonight.
Yeah.
And you thought he was healthy at the time.
Right.
But and I haven't heard that Kaprizov's even skating yet, and I think he's back in the ice or getting back in the ice, and that's more to do with the. He went to another doctor for another opinion and had the thing done I think in Colorado. And I'm wondering about the agent, what kind of influences he got in Kaprizov not getting back in the ice. X should be, coming back in the next 10 days, I hope. But that's a lot of star power out there that they don't have. Foligno, I think he can get back earlier, and it's an injury he's got on his hand that I think should heal quickly here. But you got 4 guys out there, and you're going to be playing real tough hockey the rest of the way, because this is playoff hockey already. I think that they're in a position where they're almost comfortable, but I want to see a couple more wins here in the near future to sort of get these other teams off their back.
Let me put you on the spot. If you were general manager in the same situation that Billy Guerin happens to find himself this season, some significant players hurt, and with this, whatever you want to call it, this LTIR loophole that allows you to cheat the salary cap legally, right, as some teams have done, to acquire then, maybe make a deal that would be a more significant trade, would you have made the decision, regardless of what his agent wants, regardless of what Kaprizov says, we're putting you on, we're putting one of you on LTIR. This is too good of an opportunity, and this is flat out, there's not going to be perhaps another chance like that, even in the offseason. We're going to do it. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I think Billy was facing, and the key was, could they put Kaprizov on LTIR? And what people don't realize or don't function or really look to is, how does Kaprizov feel about this? Because Kaprizov is the key to making this team go, as we all know. And you have to have him of the mind that he wants to be here and play hockey.
Yeah.
So you're not just looking at this year's playoffs. You're looking at signing him in a couple months. Can we sign him in a couple months? So he's the kind of guy that he can't stand not playing.
Yeah.
So if you say, I'm putting you on LTIR, and in his mind he wants to come back and play. Now, whether you make the playoffs or not, all of a sudden you've triggered something in his mindset that says, why do I want to be here with these guys? When I want to play, they won't let me play. Do you want to take that gamble? I wouldn't have taken that gamble. I would have says, because I know when they talk to him, what he says, he wants to play. And so if he wants to play, you can't say, well, we know we're going to make the playoffs and we want you to play and we want to be a better situation. No. you can't take that chance. It's much more important for them to sign Kaprizov than it is for them to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. In fact, we've talked about that before. You mentioned, because I think this surgery was done by a different doctor, actually a doctor that the agent engineered as being the person. And I think we're getting a lot of indications that if they're not running the show, they're co-running it in a big way. And my guess is Guerin's going along with that for the same reason, that he's such a valuable commodity. And I think you've nailed it. That's probably the key reason he didn't want to push forward on going the LTIR route. Although, couldn't you have gone the LTIR route with Eriksson Ek too?
Well, I'm not so certain that you could have, and I still think that they felt comfortable. Look at their position where they were in the playoffs, in the standings, and look at how they were playing. And I still think they're going to be in the playoffs, even if those guys don't come back and play the rest of the year, because I still have that 11 points there. And as I said, most of the teams in the league, 2/3 of the teams in the league play 500 or above. So many of the non-playoff teams are playing 500 hockey, and that's what they got to play. And even though they have, the other three teams sitting there, and we're talking about St. Louis, Vancouver, Calgary, only in counting Minnesota, only two are going to be in. They're playing each other, so somebody's going to be losing along that time as well as somebody winning, but somebody is going to be losing. So just stop and think, with the Wild, if they were to get 11 points, all of a sudden they're at 86. Right away, you got to look at Vancouver and say, well, they got 11 games left for them to get to 86. They got to play 7 games over 500, and then I think Calgary would have to play 5 over 500. So all these other teams have to play significantly above 500 to get in. So I'm comfortable with where the Wild are, provided they don't go in a deep dive. And I always told you, at this time of the year, when you get to March, you don't make up 4 points in 10-15 games. Right. Because the teams are playing other teams that are also in running for a playoff position, and one of them's going to lose. So the Wild just got to be decent, and decent is 500. And that's, realistically speaking, in the league, not even decent, because more than half the teams play at 500.
North Dakota, by the way, I meant to get to this while we were talking college hockey. North Dakota fires their head coach, Brad Berry, I think, was it 10 years? I think he was there 10 years. What did you make of that? Is that just a sign of the times, or what do you make of that announcement?
That's a good way to put it, sign of the times, because that shocked me, because North Dakota's been a very, very good team for a long time, but 2 of the last 3 years they didn't make the NCAA, which is a big thing for them. And we have to remember, North Dakota plays a tough schedule all year long. The NCHC is really tough, and their non-conference games, like they played Minnesota again, are tough. So that surprised me, because they consistently have a very competitive program, and sometimes you're going to go down. You don't win every year, conference that you're in, that you're playing in a tough conference like that, and come out with the kind of result year in and year out. It's going to put you in the 16 and going to the NCAA. That's a tough road to hoe.
Where are you, by the way, today?
I'm here today. I've got to go to Palm Springs in 2 days. So.
Palm Springs, you say?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting together. I got some business out there, but with Cesar Maniago and Glenn Sater.
Oh.
Yeah, Charlie Walters. And Chad Hartman just left today. Otherwise, he was going to join us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I think he works from there now. He's Palm Springs.
Yeah, he does. And
now, what about Majors?
Talk to him.
What about Paul Majors? He's based there now. Yeah, he moved from L.A. to Palm Springs a few years ago. Yeah, he's there too.
He can crack the lineup on Friday.
He might have to wait for the next trip, right?
I know. If I know where he was, I'll have to take a look. I'd certainly invite him. I'd love to be with him. I haven't seen Paul in a while.
fantasy trip to Palm Springs would be, I think there's still tours. I'm not exactly sure. One of the Frank Sinatra compounds. It's supposed to be really cool to see and hang out. And I'm sure you've probably stayed there. I mean, I
didn't stay there, but I've seen it.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
In fact, I was the one president's house I was at was I went to President Ford for dinner at one time because I was Peter Pocklington had him doing some stuff for him when he was running the Edmonton Oilers, and the Edmonton Oilers were playing in Anaheim, I think it was, and the day off, Peter brought him over to Palm Springs to play, and had President Ford come along and play, and had me come along too, and then we went to President Ford's house afterwards.
Oh, that must have been nice.
It was very nice.
Nice dinner, or did you just hang out for drinks, or how'd that go?
No, we had sort of a buffet. It was very nice.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's good. All right, well, have fun in Palm Springs. Safe travels there, and we will. Well, I won't chat with you next week because I'm off next week, but we'll. Somebody might be in touch with you. I don't even know what the schedule is going to be next week.
Are you heading to the Big Island or Maui?
Yeah, we might be doing the rumor is there's a rumor that we might be doing the Maui trip. So we'll see. Just a rumor, unconfirmed at this point.
You're my idol. See,
well,
that's the way I want to live.
No, you're my idol. I mean, that's the bottom line. All right, thanks as always for the time, my friend. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Luigi.
You're welcome. Nice talking to you.
And nice talking to you as well. Excellent work as always from our guy Lou Nanne. This has been I'm pretty pleased with this guest lineup today. John Athletic, Nico Medved, Aaron Gleeman, and the legend, Hall of Famer yet again, Luigi.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code iHeart. That's LEESA.com. Promo code iHeart for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night, and building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica, empathy is our best policy.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
This will be kind of what we call in the business a combo platter segment, covering a lot of ground between now and the bottom of the hour when we wrap things up on a very busy program today. It looks as if the New York Giants have made a decision about their rather discouraging quarterback situation. It appears that Russell Wilson will be joining the New York Football Giants. And let's face it, Wilson was running out of options. Giants were running out of options. So they said, well,
it's 3 a.m. I must be lonely.
I got to do what I got to do. Exactly it. So it's Russell Wilson. Still no puffs of white smoke out of Pittsburgh regarding an Aaron Rodgers marriage with the Steelers. That could still happen. I maintain that until it does, I will not rule out ever Aaron Rodgers ending up in Minnesota. Once he's signed by somebody else, I'll rule it out. But until then, I don't think it can be ruled out. And that gets back to how Rodgers wants to play it, whether he wants to gamble that even though the Steelers' job's in front of him, we presume, he'd rather take a shot, take a chance, and see who gets hurt in training camp, what might open up then, and that if nothing opens up, he says, all right, I'm done. I'm retiring. It's the end of the deal. For me, it's either the Vikings or nobody. And speaking of the Vikings quarterback situation, the heir apparent, J.J. McCarthy, was interviewed, I think it was at a golf tournament in Mexico.
Yeah, an NFLPA thing, I think.
Yes. And
Kay Adams
basically said, well, now that, the Rodgers stuff seems gone, have they talked to you about being the guy? And he said, they haven't told me anything about being the guy. And he did the self-deprecating to a fault thing. I don't expect them to tell me to being the guy because I don't want to take anything for granted about being the guy. And he sort of left it at that. And if you listen to the wording, the commentary as recently as January from KOC, he's very careful with what he says when people try to ask him about, is he the guy? He doesn't rule it out, and realistically, he is the guy. But I think they're looking at it as, how long has it been since he's actually played football? I don't know the number of days, but it's a long time. And my guess is they're going to keep all their options open until they see J.J. McCarthy on the field doing the things that I do think they expect him to do. I think there's reason to believe he's on schedule, but those are as far as I know, those are the main quarterback developments of the day. Russ Wilson to the Giants, and it was worth at least a mention regarding what J.J. had to say, that it's not like anybody's come to him and said, for the record, you are our number one quarterback starting training camp.
You do wonder, though, if the Giants' job filling up gives Rodgers a little bit more urgency to just say, you know what, Mike Tomlin, let's ride. I'm ready to go to Pittsburgh. I'm ready to go play for you. Even if New York didn't really have any interest in him, I think just by definition, that closing, at some point, if he wants to play, everybody's lining up their starters, right? Or at least lining up options.
Yes, there's no question.
So I do wonder if he gets off the beach in Malibu, takes his AirPods out, even though he uses the cord because he doesn't want to get brain damage.
And the blanket.
Puts the blanket away, maybe lights a fire, and FaceTimes Mike Tomlin and says, let's do this. I think we can do it. I wonder if that gives him any more urgency now that the Giants bit is done.
Yeah, that's it's very possible. And then that'll put the whole thing to bed regarding the Vikings. Because Seifert is back in the meat grinder on X for throwing out that the Rodgers thing is not dead yet, even though he's admitting it's unlikely, and then people get really mad at him.
I'm starting to get annoyed by that.
Me too.
It's happening in the college coaching carousel news reporting as well.
Yeah.
Where people are saying, deal's done for whoever, Nico Medved, McCollum down in Iowa City.
Until it isn't.
Well, they're saying, then other reporters are going, my information is
I see.
The deal isn't done yet.
Right. It's kind of like a semantical thing.
And then the next morning, the deal gets done, or the next day, the deal gets done, and people go, well, Dan Barrero said it was done last night. You guys told us it wasn't locked up. And we're arguing over conversations and rumors, and athletic directors are actually laying out in their press conferences, here's exactly how it went, because everyone is just attacking reporters on this stuff, just like they are with Seifert and Gessling and Alec Lewis and everybody. It's a bizarre way to spend a day, I think.
I think part of it is it's the world that we've all signed up for, that people have that time on their hands, so they're going to go down the road that ordinarily in the old days they might have muttered under their breath, but now they have a way to express that gets out to other people as well. It's very, very strange. Have you heard anything new? There was briefly a Richard Pitino to Iowa rumor, but then obviously he didn't get the job. Now there's a Richard Pitino to Villanova rumor being reported.
Yeah.
Is there any? I mean, that's a good job.
It's a great job.
So that would have to be one. I don't think he could possibly say no to that one. But then he's coaching in the same conference against his father, correct?
Exactly.
And even recruiting against his father. I don't know. Do you want that kind of? I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also a place. If you do it right, you can win national championships
you can.
there, right?
That's true.
But
the heat's on you there.
It would be, but I know he also wants to get back east, I would imagine. That's where he's technically from. That's where his wife is from.
Yes.
So the interesting thing about Villanova is there's a lot of rumors that they want your guy, Kevin Willard, the Maryland coach. And because Maryland, obviously, and he's been very coy, the Maryland coach, because his AD's on his way out. They're trying to sign him up for an extension. But he's also saying, I want to know who my boss is going to be. I want to know what their commitment is going to be. And the Nova steam there is real because I'm trying to figure out if Nova wanted Richard Pitino, that should be done. Nico Medved was playing in round of 32, as he even said today, 36 hours ago, basically. So I'm wondering if they're waiting to get a little bit more clarification from Willard, the Maryland guy, if he's actually interested in making the jump, or if they're talking some things through with Pitino. The New Mexico reporter that covers the Lobos really well tweeted out a couple of hours ago that he had corresponded with Richard today, and Richard had told him he had not been offered any job as of that moment. Now, has he talked to Villanova? I'm sure he has. I'm sure he's at least had a couple of conversations.
You would not say no to talking to them, I wouldn't think.
I think that'd be a great spot for him.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be fun.
Not sure if you covered Russo's recent tweets, but Brodin is in tonight. And Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek skating, quote, in the next few days, according to the head coach, Heinze.
Okay, well, that's a timeline.
I'm glad because I've not seen Russo's tweets today, and we were alluding to that very subject with Louis and his ongoing. Everybody's concerned regarding skating time, but I'm looking at it right now, and there it is. Yeah, Heinze indicates Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek will begin skating in the next few days. What does few mean? Does that mean 2? Does that mean 6?
What's a few?
I
don't know.
We're going through it once again. And it looks like Flower is starting tonight.
Makes sense.
Brodin is playing. Flower is starting. You got to give Gus Bus a break. Is that what you're saying?
This is the second of 3 games in 4 days.
Yes.
Right? And they just played last night.
Correct.
I heard Joe Smith with the Paul Allen Project on the way home last night, I think, on Fan on Demand on the Air, and that was what his gut said. At some point, you got to give Gus a little bit of a break, and this night would make sense to give him the back-to-back off and then have him back in the net on whatever day that would be, Thursday.
So Donovan Dent has entered the portal? Is that true? Is that report true?
Yes, as well as another.
That's Richard Pitino's best player.
Yes.
I should mention at the University of New Mexico. So is that another hint?
I don't think so.
Not necessarily.
No, because
he's a good player.
He's really good. He's really All-American.
He's a really good player. Yes, that's the guy who's going to be wanted at the highest levels of the game.
Yes, and so that's not surprising because he can go get paid, and a lot of people were even surprised that New Mexico kept him this year.
As long as they did.
Because he was a great player for them last year, even though he wasn't the featured guy. He was a big piece of it. They had another guard enter the portal as well. I think what you're seeing too, though, Dan, a lot is people getting into the portal that don't necessarily want to leave, but also want the leverage threat with the team. It's almost like the contract extension with the team that you have. Like I'll go test free agency if you want. If you don't think I'm worth X amount of dollars, I'll go test free agency.
Well,
and if you come up with the money, I'll come back. Like that, I think is going to start happening too.
One of the most interesting things that Eric Musselman predicted about the direction college basketball is going in is that it's a matter of time until you're going to see flat out general managers in the NBA sense working for universities. And the coach he said it, the coach is just going to coach, and the general manager, and obviously he's got to work together in terms of who the players are, but
you have to have alignment.
You got to have alignment, but that's inevitably he thinks where we're headed. And by the way, he's fine. He doesn't love it, but he said I'm working in it. I'm fine with it. Obviously after he had a very disappointing season at USC. We'll come back.
See their women's program, the blow that they took last night?
Yes.
Juju Watkins ACL? That's devastating.
I didn't see it live. I saw the tape of it, and it was awful.
It sucks.
It was a really bad look. I mean, the look on her face, she went down, collapsed hard, and it was a player basically just trying to get in the way of her going to the basket. It wasn't a dirty play.
It wasn't.
But it was an unfortunate play. And then she was literally carried off by a couple of teammates, and now she's done.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's basically, that's a year kind of a recovery, correct?
Yeah, I mean, she might be able to come back late next year.
And who knows who she is at that point, even though we've, on ACLs, we've improved the whole situation.
Including Paige Beckers, who is playing outstanding now.
She had a great game last night for sure.
That was cool.
We'll come back, wrap up the show, and we'll finish with one of my favorite departments. It all depends on whose ox is being gored.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
At Amica Insurance, we know it's more than a life policy. It's about the promise and the responsibility that comes with being a new parent. Being there day and night. And building a plan for tomorrow, today. For the ones you'll always look out for, trust Amica Life Insurance. Amica. Empathy is our best policy.
You guys know I'm always up for a good MVP story, and one of the best is the story of Wasabi Technologies. Wasabi is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the world's hottest cloud storage company, becoming the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams and leagues around the world, and here's why. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, data deletion, and ransomware, Wasabi's taken the lead in driving innovation in data storage, eliminating overhead where it matters to deliver you results you can count on and won't break the bank. In fact, Wasabi is up to 80% less than those other guys and doesn't charge a cent for businesses to access their own data. Wasabi, another championship story. Check them out for free at wasabi.com.
Apartment, that's...
Show wrap presented as always by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper to bumper show wrap.
It really is, I think, it's trite, it's cliched, but it all does depend on whose ox is being gored. You can go back into political history, not that recent political history in this country, and you would find quite easily, with very little research, that the following individuals involved in major ways in the Trump administration: Rubio, Waltz, not Walls, Waltz, Miller, and Hegseth have all called for or suggested criminal charges for Clinton and Biden over classified information. Rubio was most explicit in noting where classified information belongs, not on that app that ultimately showed great signs of vulnerability, ending with the editor of The Atlantic being in on the war plans involving the bombing of the Houthis. Waltz said Biden needed to be charged. And yet now, it's no big deal. Hegseth instead taking it out on the journalist who reported what came into his inbox. You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist, which, as some wiseacre on X pointed out, it's even worse than I thought. They texted a deceitful and highly discredited journalist with top secret war plans. Not just any journalist, which is a good comeback, but it is ox being gored. That's as simple as that. Well, we got caught doing it this time, so a pox on you, and it's no big deal, and everything's going to be fine. When they did it, and these, again, aren't all the same on the same level, they got to go to prison. They got to be investigated. There have to be criminal charges. That's where we are politically once again. Not new, but it's ongoing, and it's why the ox being gored thing continues to work as effectively as it does. Want to thank our outstanding guest lineup today. As I mentioned, Johnny Athletic, Nico Medved, the new Gopher men's basketball coach, Aaron Gleeman in studio for us, a great hour, and Luigi, the Hall of Famer, as well. Tomorrow,
just another day around here.
Just another day.
I mean, that's just what we do.
You did it nicely today. I think we're going to be joined by the Gopher women's basketball coach tomorrow. Is that correct?
I saw her today, and she said, I'm coming on your show tomorrow.
That's great.
I said, let's play.
And then it's a Wednesday, so it's a Kessler. You're off Thursday, not tomorrow. You are with me tomorrow?
I'm off tomorrow.
Oh, you are off tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
And then it's also worth noting, speaking of free agent transactions, apparently your guy Diggsy
saw that
is signing a 3-year deal with the New England Patriots. Stephon Diggs is going to New England. I think it was like 3 years, 69. That's that what I saw?
Yeah.
I didn't see the numbers on Russell Wilson to the Giants.
I think it was like 1 in 20. Something like that. It was a substantial number.
Was it? And then maybe you get some incentives depending on how you do?
Yeah, it's still on the top of the page here. I'll pull
there you
it up.
go.
That 1 year worth up to $21 million.
Up to $21 million. So what do we got coming up
guaranteed
later tonight on The Fan?
We have Fan on Demand on the air and then Wild Hockey.
Wild Hockey again. Louis predicted victory tonight. It's the Kraken tonight again, right?
I think it's Vegas tonight.
No, it couldn't be Kraken. You're right. Didn't we just play Kraken?
We played the Stars last night.
Well, last night, but I mean recently we beat the Kraken, as I recall. So it's Vegas tonight. And I don't know. Oh, the Wolves are off for 3 days. I think
they play Phoenix on Friday.
They get like the most time off you could possibly imagine this time of year, which is because they've played more games than a couple of the other teams. So those other teams will probably get caught up. Buckets tonight in Miami. It's the return of Buckets to Miami.
Got your popcorn?
How do you think that'll go?
Got your league pass? Is that a national TV game? It's got to be, doesn't it?
I would assume it is.
I'll pull it up.
But what was the number that Johnny gave us when he joined us? Since Butler left Miami, did he say 2-17 or 2-15
something
or 4
like that?
It was awful.
That is on TNT tonight.
Okay, and
it's the first game starts in moments.
Golden State is 16-4. Since look, that doesn't absolve him of his guilt for what he was involved with in Miami, but he's in the honeymoon period, and that's what you want. I mean, the fantasy for any general manager is getting Jimmy Butler in the honeymoon period because he is as good as it gets. He really is. He changes so much for a team. The question is, how long can you extend the honeymoon period? And in this case, maybe a while because Golden State is giving him the money.
They are. And the honeymoon period doesn't need to be that long because how many years does Steph have left? 2?
This year and next year. Because they've all said their contracts are aligned, I thought. Now, maybe that goes beyond that. But the quote from Steph is basically, look, we go for a title this year, we go for a title next year, and then we see where we're at. And that's not a bad bargain. Meanwhile, our team, we're back figuring out the lineup and figuring out whether we're going to play hard enough or what happened all of a sudden to your guy, Jaden McDaniels, who we're all nominating for, comeback player of the year.
You know me, I'm always hesitant on Jaden McDaniels. I love when he plays well, but I never fully trust it.
It comes, I just got it's the Kraken tonight, right? Hockey ambassador. Well, in fairness to me, the other hockey ambassador said it was the Kraken. It was Luigi. I'm going to blame him because that's who put it in my head. But it is Vegas, as you said.
Yes.
Okay.
Flowers' former team.
I'll take that. It's amazing how anytime there's a blunder, Fallness is right there waiting for it.
It never just says, hey, great job, or thanks for the coverage.
Not that I've seen.
Sad.
Standard old man language, a couple is 2, a few is 3. When it comes to how many days until Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov start skating.
Not soon enough, however many it is.
Yeah, that's very, very true, Davey, for sure. In any case, enjoyed the program today. Thank you for texting. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, if you were watching, even though I don't think any of this was televised. And I will be back with you tomorrow. I'm assuming with Brett Blakemore.
That's the plan.
At 3 o'clock tomorrow. Are you out Thursday, too? You're out now for the rest of the week, so I won't see you for a while. All right, well, we'll be in touch.
I'll be here.
And
you'll
eventually be around. Then you're heading, very good, you're heading to the Final Four next week as well. Coming up next, Fan on Demand on the air.
Whenever you call me, I'll be
Well, it's lumpy.
Whenever you want me, I'll be there.
This is for all the Tostitos.
I'll be there.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Yo, what's good? It's Jeff C. from Club 520 Podcast here to share my latest fresh take on the 2025 NCAA Tournament, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of March Madness. This past weekend was a great round 32. I had the best game of the year. Had to be the Maryland versus Colorado State game. It ended with a game winner. It was exciting. Derek Quinn, good shot. Looking ahead to the Sweet 16, I'm really looking forward to watching Arkansas versus Texas Tech. I'm looking forward to it because it's similar styles. They both play hard defense. They both gritty teams, and they play in the post. It should be a battle for the ages. I'm also looking forward to the Duke versus Arizona game. Both elite programs, legendary status. It should be a battle that we all looking forward to. Probably be the game of the night. And when it comes to the Final Four, I'm all in on Duke and Houston. Two great coaches, two legendary programs. Should be exciting for their road to the Final Four. More from me soon, but while you're watching the games, remember, the freshest deal in fast foods gotta be Wendy's. Right now, you can get a junior bacon cheeseburger or a double stack for $1 with the in-app offer and purchase. Again, head to the Wendy's app to grab a $1 junior bacon cheeseburger or a $1 double stack with the in-app offer and a purchase for the freshest hamburger around. Gotta be Wendy's, the official hamburger of March Madness.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check for the nearest bathroom first before the game starts. Now you're heading in the wrong direction, and it sounds like your team's taking the lead. Checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.